Welcome to Winning Inside, the show where we follow the journey from feeling defeated to winning. Here are your hosts, Cheddy Matthews and Michelle Wickman.
Hello, amazing people. Welcome to the Winning Inside podcast, where we discuss real issues, insights, and solutions to help you thrive in your day-to-day lives.
We know life happens, and we can choose to be a spectator or a participant.
Hello, Cheddy.
Michelle, how are you?
I'm good. I'm
very
good.
Subdued today. I'm very calm and mellow and quiet today. Not sure why, because I'm calm, but I'm like cheesing and grinning, so I don't know why.
Yeah,
why there's this difference.
no, I think, you and I, we both have just a lot going on.
Yeah.
And even when I say those words, it's like anytime anybody says those words, there's an emotion that sort of shows up, right? It's like, oh my gosh, I have so much going on. I just have a lot going on right now, right?
Yeah.
And usually it's sort of a heavy emotion. And so I think that's where we're at, where it's like, there's a lot going on. It's not bad.
No.
Like we're both in really good mental spaces, and we've been really conscientious about our mindset work. And so it doesn't feel heavy. It's just like, wow, there's a lot going on. This is kind of interesting, right?
Oh my gosh. I like how you put that. It's facts, facts, and facts. It's so many things happening, things that we wanted, things that we didn't expect, opportunities, things that get us to the next step or next level. And it's the progress, it's the journey we asked for. And the things that we asked for are coming to fruition. But you start to realize, oh my gosh, it's taking so much time. This is an arduous task. Got a lot of work to do. But I'm excited for it. I am excited for it because, we could have quit a long time ago in different areas of our life. We could have given up on this and said it's taking too long to do that. But no, we're still here. We're getting it done, moving forward. And we had the resilience, or whatever you want to call it, the drive, the moxie to keep it going and keep it moving. So what are we talking about today, my dear?
Well, along those lines, we're talking about stick-to-itiveness.
I love that word.
And I know the word Cheddy shared, it's just sort of like rolled off his tongue so easily. And I was like, what? I'm like, well, we're definitely talking about that today, right? Because I was just like, I haven't heard that word. I don't know that I've ever heard it, or maybe I've heard it just, as part of some speaking engagement or something in that context.
Yeah.
And yet in everyday life, it's such a great, catchy word. It is a noun. It is technically in the Merriam-Webster dictionary. I did look it up.
Yep.
Because I was so fascinated when he said it. And I said, that's totally relevant to what's going on in our lives right now, and even to this podcast.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Funny you say that. I'm not sure if you're aware, folks, but we hit on the 14th of February, our 1-year anniversary. We have been doing this for a year. It blows my mind. Like sometimes, I think I was telling you earlier today, Michelle, like, we did this. We kept going over this whole year. We had a few weeks where we didn't record, and then it was like, we're going to keep doing this. And yet here we are. We stayed with it. We got sick. We had some illnesses. We had some things that just crammed our schedule so it couldn't work. But I'm so glad that we stuck with it. It was hard in the beginning, Michelle. It was hard. We were talking about it today. Post-production was hard. And it's getting easier. The system's getting easier.
And like, quite frankly, not just life sort of happening and pulling you away, but there were times where Cheddy and I just weren't really aligned, and what we were both thinking, or where our energies and our focuses were. And so, whether it's in a partnership and feeling like, gosh, maybe this isn't working. Maybe I should just not do this podcast with Cheddy.
Yeah.
Or whether it's in my personal goal, Cheddy and I both were talking about having individual podcasts, and we're like, well, that means maybe this one just sort of goes by the wayside, right?
Yeah.
But we just kept at it. And there's something significant to be said for that. in
Yeah.
not in terms of, let's say, some overwhelming success for this podcast, right? We're not at, hundreds of thousands of downloads or anything like that. But there's something to be said about just the sheer lessons that we gained through the
Yes.
process of sticking to it, right? And
Yes.
just not quitting, because quitting, there is like a comfort in quitting.
Oh, yeah.
It's like immediately releases endorphins because you're
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I don't have to work hard anymore.
Yes.
I don't have to go through the discomfort of figuring out what topic to have, or, how to edit this, or post production, or how to get another guest on. I don't have to do this thing. I can just let it go. And it feels so good to let things go sometimes.
Yeah. But let's talk about it. Let's be real, Michelle. Do you remember when we first started, we had all these dreams about why we were doing this? We're going to do it for this reason and that reason. And we were like, let's go home and do the why exercises. Coaches, we will ask why multiple times. Why are we doing a podcast? And we had all these grandiose reasons why we were doing it, to reach this person, that person, and exposure, whatever it was. Right? We had all these reasons. And we went home. And I don't know if you remember this, but we came back, I think it was probably the next day. I was like, so Michelle, what is the reason you're doing a podcast? And what did you say?
I have no idea.
I'm going to tell you what you said. And this is after breaking down. No, I'll tell you.
How my memory is.
This is so funny. You said to prevent one person from committing suicide.
Oh,
I looked at you like, oh, wow. Because for all the stuff I was saying, all the grandiose ideas and all the flashy stuff that I was saying, when I whittled it down, when it was just the core of why we're doing this, it was to prevent one person from committing suicide. We didn't talk about it. We never even mentioned that before. We never talked about that. But yet there was a why that was so strong, and it was so deep because it took me saying why a lot to get to it. And it was very sobering that we both had a similar underlying goal and reason for doing this and sharing and trying just to help one person. And I said, this is a mission. This isn't just a thing we do. This is a mission. This is a calling. This is life altering for someone somewhere on the globe. Game on. And that was, if you want to talk about an alignment test, that was an alignment test, because of all the answers that we could have had, we both said the same thing. And it was so unrelated to the first why, when we talked about why we're doing this. Why are we doing this? That was a different answer totally. Then go home and do the why exercise, the 5 whys or more, and find out why you're really doing this. So yeah. I appreciate that. And I think that goes along with stick-to-itiveness, or any other word you want to call it, because there's a whole bunch of words you might use. If you're like, what does that word even mean? Persistence, determination, grit, just that ability to say, I'm going to do something and I'm going to see it through. And it wasn't always easy, and we saw it through.
Yeah. Or as in Merriam-Webster's definition, a firm or unwavering adherence to one's purpose.
Wow, I like that. I like that.
Which is so interesting that you drew that connection all the way back to when we first started and our whys, because sticking to anything that has like a really long, drawn out process is such a test of character and integrity with yourself, integrity with your own word.
Yeah.
Even if you're doing it and you're not like, oh, this is easy and it's effortless and it's enjoyable and it's all of these things. It's not always those things, but neither is life.
Exactly. Exactly.
So life isn't always those things, but those bad times that we had with the podcast, the difficult times that we had with each other and trying to get each other to show up and be present and be energetic and all of those things, like those difficult times don't last either. Right. Exactly. Because you probably heard us in the last month where a couple of times interviews we're just laughing, and it's inspiring to speak to other individuals and hear their stories.
Yeah.
So those good times are there and the difficult times are there. And just like in life, each of those experiences, each of those emotions, they do pass. And as you process them, the difficult ones tend to diminish in terms of your the energy that you're connected to with that emotion and how deep it feels.
Yeah.
And then for the good emotion, when you process that one, you really take the time to appreciate the good experiences, the positive emotions. You let that actually sit with you longer and it carries you forward. So there's
Yes.
additional momentum with that. There's additional acknowledgement and awareness of where it shows up again. So it's a process of understanding that if you just keep sticking to it, like that phrase, this too shall pass, is so powerful,
Spot
both
on.
for the good things and the bad things,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
This too shall pass. Let's appreciate it. This too shall pass. You can keep doing this.
Yeah.
It's going to be okay.
It's going to be okay. You're absolutely
Yeah.
right. I'm hoping that someone hears that and really understands that what you're going through, this may be the forging period for you to become stronger on the other side. Sometimes, you've heard the analogy of coal, enough pressure, heat, and time, it's going to turn into a diamond. Life is like that sometimes. And your present situation could be the foundational steps in giving you the skill sets, the traits, the mindset, the tool sets, the network, the support, the experience, the knowledge, whatever it is, the emotional story that will help you connect to the next goal, whatever it may be, so you can get to that next point and you'll be prepared for it. So this journey that you're on, the toiling that you're doing, the everyday grind, the work that you're doing that is adhering to your purpose, it will bring fruition at some point. And the scary thing is there's times when you're like, I'm done. And you got to just take that next step. And in my mind, I'm seeing the analogy of you doing like a hike, doing like a 20-mile night hike. And you're like, oh, we got 17 more miles. You says, I'm tired now. Come on. And what keeps you going? You've got to focus on the things and the reasons why you started in the first place. You've got to focus on those. Because sometimes thinking of your why, the purpose, the genesis of the reason why you're doing the thing, or the end state, the goal that you want at the end, has to be in the forefront of your mind to keep going. And then you can start to ignore the pain, the fatigue, the frustration, and all those kind of things as well. Keep going. The goal is there.
And maybe it's not even ignoring them, but appreciating them for what they are.
That's high level right there. That's high level. It is. No, you're right. And, we talk about gratitude a lot. We really do. And you do have the opportunity to be grateful in a situation. I was on a call earlier and somebody had a really grave situation. And the more they were talking, somebody was like, well, I mean, it was grave. It was like, there's no hope. There's no hope. There's no end in sight. There's no solution to this problem. And then somebody said, well, what about this? All of a sudden, you can almost see like a dark room and someone cracked it and the light came in. And then somebody kept on pushing the door and the light just became more and more bright. And all of a sudden they saw opportunities they didn't see 20 minutes before. Life-changing opportunities. And it was just, wow, to watch this happen in real time is amazing. Sometimes that solution is right there.
Yeah.
It's right there. And I think just having the mindset of being gratitude opens you up. Let's just say that. Gratitude opens you up. And if you can be grateful in a situation, even if it sucks, it helps you to see it in a different way. And maybe that silver lining that you see, maybe that positivity, that little spark of positivity, I can't speak right now, enables you to keep going and then see it from a different perspective. Oh, I never saw that before. How many times have you had a problem and then you see it from a different perspective where you just change your mindset a little bit? Michelle, you spoke about this last week when you were talking about me and calling me out.
I was thinking about that.
Yeah, that wasn't planned, but
I don't know. I was literally just sitting here thinking that, Cheddy, you're a representation of stick-to-itiveness. You won't quit on a 4-part economics problem days into the process, right? Yes. And there's an element too of just understanding when you're sticking to it and with the energy of perseverance, or you're sticking to it with the energy of like almost punishing yourself.
There's a difference.
And being able to distinguish between the two so that you can really take stock of where you're at and make an intentional, a conscious and a compassionate toward yourself choice, as you did last week, to just take a break and pause that thought, right?
Yes.
Because you're mentioning that person on the call this morning who all they could see was sort of the doom and gloom, and that was the language that he was saying. And especially when somebody's starting to repeat the same language over and over and over again, you know that they're actually feeling that emotion right then and there, right? Because they're saying it again, and then they repeat it again, and then they repeat again. That emotion is physically present. So in order to stop that emotion, you have to pause the thought process that's ruminating and sort of cycling in their brain, which is what you did for yourself and what that other individual on the call did for that gentleman this morning.
Yes.
It's like, well, let's just pause that thought right here, right? Like, I'm just going to drop this thought in and see where that lands.
Yeah. And it's different because that pause, that stop is not akin to quitting. Sometimes because you stop emotion, you think it's quitting, but is it really? If you stop to reassess, reorient, readdress, and then go back in there and handle business one more time, that's not quitting. That's just really taking we call it in the military, an operational pause. All right, let's recalibrate, regroup. That didn't work. We need to do something different. Let's fix this and go.
Well, but that's the essence of stick-to-itiveness, right? Is because you are going to fail, especially if you have big goals.
Yes.
And so taking those failures is not the end game. That's not the end. That's just a milestone where you're like, okay, now I get to assess what worked, what didn't work, what do I want to do differently going forward, and then move forward with from that point, right? But knowing that there's another success and another failure ahead of you, but you won't know until you get there. So you can plan for some of it, but for the most part, it's just a matter of, as you stated earlier on the 20-mile night hike, one foot in front of the other. You know their pain is coming, but it will come when it gets here versus I'm going to think about how painful it's going to be this entire time and experience pain up until the point where my body actually manifests it. Right.
Yep.
So it's such a wonder to like think of this word stick-to-itiveness and the application in so many different lives and so many different contexts and so many different experiences in conversations that you and I have had, not just over the course of this last year with the podcast, but even in just the last 2 days.
I know.
And it's kind of a fun word to say. So, Cheddy and I encourage everybody to try to say it 10 times fast, or just try to use it in a sentence.
You know what? That should be our challenge to everyone. You know what? Have you ever heard these challenges where you got to use one word in a sentence somehow? It's just got to come up. Try to use the word stick-to-itiveness in your day for the next week. Just try to use it one time a day if you can. See what it does. People might look at you differently, like, But not only that, just saying it makes you think about it. And maybe just the spark or the seed that enables you to go through something and not only say it, but become it, to develop it and to grow in it. And then celebrate the fact that you did stick to it down the road. So that's my challenge to everybody. Go out there and be stick-to-itive-esque. I'm making up words now since we're just in the mood of making up words. But no, stick to it. Thank you. And if you enjoyed today's podcast, please subscribe, follow, share, and most importantly, use whatever adds value to your amazing life.
And remember, even if life puts barriers in our way, we are still moving forward. We are still sticking to it.
There we go.
Sign in again for a new episode of Winning Inside.
Thank you for listening to Winning Inside with Cheddy Matthews and Michelle Wickman. If you enjoyed today's show, please make sure to click the follow button, rate and review at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Audible, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can connect with Cheddy and Michelle at winninginside.io. Keep listening. Another episode is coming soon.